few that have visited me, but this is the first one that has been like wanting to stay around. So this is a new experience for me.
I'm able to usually like call them out and things like that. And one time I was with a team of like ghost hunters or whatever. I mean, they had an actual business license to do this stuff and all the equipment. And I always told them, I'm like, oh, if I go with you guys, you'll definitely see some stuff. And they did. And there was a shadow person that followed me home from the cemetery that
Oh my God.
And he lived with us for about 3 years. And I told him
he had a stowaway fucking a stowaway ghost. What is it called? When people live at places, a squatter, a stowaway ghost squatter.
Yeah, and it was weird because there was probably 8 people with us. Everyone saw this shadow figure. But me, I could not see him, and, I kept turning around, and everyone could see him except me, and, I have
That's freaky.
I have this ego about me. If I can't see it, it's not real, or if I haven't experienced it.
Yeah, exactly, and so I want to ask you in response to that, first I want to make note. I believe that what had actually happened, and this is something I want you to pay attention to, is that when I said that things are going to go wrong, it's not necessarily going to be technical malfunctions. It seems as though the app we were using had actually been reconfiguring itself or doing maintenance or something like on the screen at that time.
So is it, Donovan, is it recording now? Donovan, is it recording now?
I believe it's recording
Okay,
fine
do you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, you guys? You guys can go ahead.
Well, yeah, I also want to ask that question. Obviously, I'm Donovan Neal, host of Soul Mechanics, co-host of Outcast Revolution, director, all that jargon. Here to speak to NorieAnn Holley, our awesome guest host yet again. Go ahead and introduce yourself, madam.
My name is Norie, and I'm a professional clairvoyant. That's just pretty much the whole entire realm. I don't like to specify the things that I do because I do them all.
That's great.
Then, of course, we have the beautiful Mandy Lee, who has been fucking stomping my ass all day long about this podcast, and she is the actual host of Soul Mechanics, so she'll take the wheel from here. But first, I want to ask that question: what do you think about shadow people, and most especially in consideration to the common reports about them, wherein they seem to be stalking people as they sleep in some way or another?
I've only had a couple occurrences with shadow people. However, what I have noticed from my own experiences, and talking to those people whom I trust about their experiences, is they very much seem tied to one specific area. I do understand that they were human at one time. And honestly, it baffles me why they appear just black. I haven't figured that out yet, but I have noticed that they are a mischievous bunch. I've never known one to not be a bit of a prankster. So,
what leads you to the determination that they were human people?
Because, well, first of all, only humans take the shape of humans. Like when you're dealing with other darker, lower vibration beings, they're not in the shape of humans. And the one I dealt with, I believed it was the presence of a woman's husband who lived next to me. But I feel things, and dealing with the one that followed me home from the cemetery, I could definitely feel his energy. It was a male,
Right.
Was human.
Right.
He was incredibly mischievous, and he understood, English language.
So you were, so you had a feel for it. Because, I mean, I've encountered creatures that I'm pretty sure were not actually human, that kind of looked human, but, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the most part, they were kind of like, they were innately humanoid creatures, like they should have appeared to be human. There's no reason why they wouldn't have, but they would be considered non-human in a matter of speaking, although, I mean, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and consider everything to be people, ultimately, so who gives a shit?
Okay. So, Donovan, do you have anything else you'd like to ask before I get started?
Not yet. No. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I kind of want to go back into our previous conversation about how you were talking about, you talked about how you discovered your abilities and things like that, but the next part of that question was, how is your, and I know you said your family also has abilities as well, but how are your friends, how is the public in your area receptive of your gifts and things like that? Have you?
They haven't always been. My parents knew I was gifted pretty much at birth, and my whole family understood that, more so on my mother's side, where everyone has some amount of spiritual gifting.
Right.
They're all highly religious. I've gone through different phases of my life where I was celebrated or persecuted. It was very seldom one way or the other. It all depends on the type of people I'm putting myself around. When I was very young, I was quite celebrated as a person, a child who could read minds and levitate and call out spirits and things like that. And then by the time I became a teenager and I had my first showing of kind of an awesome amount of clairvoyance, I was badly persecuted. I lost like half of my friends, and that equated to about half the school kind of hated me because they understood my clairvoyance as me being a bad witch, because I was dabbling in the craft at that time. And as I got older, a lot of it depended on what town I was living in. A couple years ago, both of my children were taken from me because of my spiritual beliefs, and I have an 8-month-old baby who has been taken from me because of a Facebook post that I made commenting on her birth chart, which was absolutely true. You could have Googled what I said, and Google would have told you the same things.
Well, what was wrong?
And I had to undergo a battery of psychological and psychiatric testing, and I had already been through all that testing because I was doubting my own sanity for several years. And hopefully I'll be getting her back soon. And now I'm in a different area, and this area, Meadville, Pennsylvania, is deeply mystical, and you wouldn't really know that, but here it's a lot more accepted than some of the other areas I've lived in. So it just comes and goes. You have to find the right
Would you safely say that there is, and I use this term, bigotry? Would you say that there is a form of bigotry and things like that toward people that practice, toward people that are witches and psychics and mediums, because oftentimes people are either scared of them or afraid of them?
With all respect, they should be. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand why witches have been so hated in the past. I do have information on that is absolutely factual. My first spell book, which was from the 1400s, it specified for the flying potion that you needed the fat of an infant, a human infant. So
it's going to be that sort of thing, especially where people insist that you require like human blood for certain things. That's going to be the problematic area.
Yeah, pretty much I'll tell you that people are afraid of what they don't know. People are tainted by their religious beliefs, because I encounter a lot of opposition on the basis of me being a healer. people think that that is only something that the most holy of souls can do. So it all depends, and a lot of times if a person is already accepting you and then they find out that you have these gifts, you will be like the one that they trust. But for the most part, people don't like others who are more talented than them. People don't like people who can read their minds or know their...
Well, I would also like to add that one thing that I have noticed and one thing that I have discovered is that I find that the number one reason that I've gotten that a lot of people are afraid of people like ourselves is that they don't, it's the fact that they don't understand it. And like you also brought up about religion and things like that. Organized religion, and first off, let me say to anybody watching, I'm not attacking you for your beliefs or anything like that, but organized religion has tainted a lot of people in the facts of what witchcraft and things like that are, which is not the big bad wolf that they think it is.
Well, you know, under the age of 7, the mind is very impressionable, and when children are introduced to religious doctrine, it stays with them. You know, they say if you don't leave an area by age 12, you'll carry that accent lifelong. And a lot of people, I don't want to pick on Catholicism, but it is the original Church of Jesus Christ. A lot of people are kind of brainwashed that if they even look at that stuff, then they'll be infected by evil. But all of the demons are just former gods, and if you are a person who is well versed in ceremonial or ritual magic, you'll go into mass and you'll see that that's exactly what it is. You know, it's just replacing the pagan era. And every point of mass, they have 4 candles, you know, for the 4 directions, and that's fire. And then they have the Eucharist, which is the disc, which is earth. I mean, it's all magic, and it's all the same story told over and over again to fit the time.
Right.
Unless
I'd like to make note of it. For what you just said. I'm sorry, if I interrupted you, you can finish it. Were you finished?
I thought you were going to make a note, or...
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do want to speak on that. I want to make a few points. What you were just speaking about, where and what Mandy mentioned that the problem is, you know, people not understanding it. Well, that honestly, in my opinion and in my experience, that is actually not really the problem. The problem is that too many people think they know what the fuck they're talking about because somebody has taught them to believe that this is what it is.
Right.
And that's going to be the primary issue. But it's not just the unknown. It's not just a matter of them not understanding it. It's a matter of them thoroughly believing that they do understand you and that you are evil no matter what you do because that's what you have. And that's going to be one of the issues that we really need to start dealing with, and hopefully this podcast will address.
Absolutely.
But another thing I noticed is that you both and everybody else that I've met in this endeavor have been raised, for the most part, by religious people. I
was raised up in a very small, because I live in the damn Bible Belt, okay?
This seems to be a recurring aspect.
I was raised in a very religious, I went to church every Sunday, went to church every Sunday morning, Sunday night. It was like church. But, you know, the one person, like I told you, the one person that really inspired me to kind of not really walk away, but to question things is my mom. Because my mom was not the type of person to just believe what someone put in front of her. She wasn't the type of person to just believe blindly. She researched things. She questioned everything. and it may upset my family, that I've done the same thing, but I think it's important to do that, and she didn't raise me to just be like a blind little sheep following just what someone tells me just because they say that that's the way it is.
Yeah, and you know what the simple truth of it is that if you do, in fact, do proper research, if you do your homework on this, you're going to find that it's the real deal. So, I mean,
Right.
under what circumstances should they be, trusted in the assumption that there's something innately evil about it, where, in fact, it's functional while their paradigm is entirely broken? Like,
It is. And this may be a controversial statement, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I just feel like it needs to be said. A lot of organized religions talk about how their religions really are their religions that represent love, but from the research that I've done, from reading the books alone, it couldn't be farther from the truth, because all of the books talk about division, and this is wrong, and that's wrong, and that's right, and that's wrong, and you're a horrible person if you do this, you're a horrible person if you do that. Whereas Wicca, if you look at Wicca and Buddhism and things, that really does more incline to a religion of love, if you were to say a religion, if you were to use that term, because they don't judge on race, they don't judge on gender. I don't want to say gender. They don't judge on gender. They don't judge on sexuality. They don't judge on anything like that. I don't know why I said ginger. I'm sorry. But they don't, and I think it's sad the fact that people don't educate themselves to understand that, because we all need to be more accepting of each other and less judgmental and less you're horrible if you do this, or you're horrible if you're like this, or whatever.
It's actually such a simple proposition, and it is in fact the answer. It's that fucking simple. Just learn what's really going on. Be real about it and respect people. It's very easy that we turn everything around, but people are so stupid and stubborn and just unrealistic, trapped in fantasies. It's unbelievable. Honestly, I was just spending half of the time I was out here just bitching at myself about it precisely that. Sorry.
So, I would like to get into this with you and go ahead and ask you some more questions. The first thing that I'm curious about is your abilities and things like that, and I'm curious if you could tell something about Donovan that Donovan has not told anyone, like just something personal about him,
and
something personal about me. It could be from, yeah.
Yeah, that works. I thought you were gonna give her very specific tasks.
Oh, this is just the first question.
I had expected that.
This is just the first question, Donovan. You can't just throw someone in that.
Oh.
I typically guard myself against giving personal information over public forums, because let me tell you, when I focus on people, I tend to only see tragedies and horrific things.
Oh yeah, did you see the original interview wherein she mentioned that to be the case, that she in fact does tend to see bad stuff coming?
I only see the bad things. Sometimes I play with my friends. Before I became a paid professional in this realm, I practiced for many years, and my mind receives images and understandings, and then I used various methods to pretty much give me the confidence to shout these things out. However, I won't even do couples palm readings with them in the same room, because I have found the things that I know through my gifts or curses are not things that people just want out there.
Right.
Let's do this.
I would allow for you to say it if you wanted to. any of them, not anything.
Okay, can you tell Donovan something and myself something about our past lives, just like something that you picked up?
Yeah, I've got a few to draw from, so you got choices.
I don't want to disappoint you, but past life regression I always do through astrology, and I wanted to touch on that before. I've had professionals do my past lives, and the things they told me seemed very built from my personality. But when I did the past life regression on the astrology chart, I got completely different things. I
thought we were going to play with tools here.
I could do that, yeah. I was told that I had 2 previous lives, which is automatically incorrect because I'm an Aquarius, so I'll tell you I've had 10. And my previous lives, according to a person who claimed to be a professional, which, by the way, 9/10 of professionals are charlatans.
That's true. That's very true.
In one, I was...
That's actually an endeavor we're undertaking, honestly, is I've been going around checking people, testing them, and just local shops and whatnot, in order to point out the frauds, because one of them really got on my nerves one day, and I made him
So yeah, if you could tell him something about one of his past lives and one of mine, that would be really interesting.
Well, it's pretty interesting because I've noticed all my methods line up, and really the only thing I get when I focus on Donovan is a massive amount of dark suppressive energy, like a lot of negativity, not so much in his this is now character. Yeah. And it's kind of radiates from your eyes. You have a certain darkness.
Yeah, I've gotten that repeatedly from many different people recently. Since I started the initiative, I've had so many different people just suddenly contact me or comment something to me saying, I sense something dark from you or something negative, and it's like, dude, I'm like...
Yeah, I don't get that you're a dark person, but I get that that's in your past. And
that is the case. I actually have to try and explain to some extent to these people. I do go ahead and try to give them somewhat of an explanation, but it's actually something I'm not sure I can really talk about openly. But yeah, there are things in my past that are criminal in nature, like criminal insofar as concerns existence in its entirety.
Yeah, and I do, when I'm on my calls, I do several different methods at a time. Yeah, I believe that I can't focus on how many past lives you've had, I guess because I would know that you've had, every life before Capricorn. I find it interesting that you have memories of carrying a bow and being an archer, because in your last life you would have been a Sagittarius, which is the archer.
Okay, I get you.
So through Toth cards, I'm getting that you were definitely a person who took lives at one point. I'm getting that you did this with something sharp, but I'm not getting that it was arrows.
I was actually murdered one time by a bayonet. That's one of the memories I have.
It's very funny if you look at the shape of the fire on there. But I'm getting that you were pretty much like a hitman. There were lives taken from you.
Why does that not surprise me?
Well, and honestly, I can't be certain of that. I do not remember that exactly having transpired, but I do remember that in several past lives that I can recall, I spent almost the entirety of them in a prison of some sort.
Yeah, I'm getting that, there was, in the crystal ball, I seen an X and then an upwards triangle, which tells me it was a lot of women's lives you took. And
Women's lives? No,
yeah.
come on, don't tell me that.
Yeah. Women have been hated throughout time. Maybe you were a witch hunter. But
I'm gonna go ahead and tell the audience that I, as I am, have always been a firm believer in women and lover of them. In totality, I am actually not really a big fan of men. I kind of wish that I had been born a woman, honestly. That sucks. I don't want
well,
them.
you're Capricorn, and that is, the Mother Earth sign. So
Yeah.
you are a feminine sign.
Most people are associated with the goat and say that I'm a devil. I get that too.
Well, the Capricorn is the devil, actually, Pan and whatnot, but it's actually just the flip side of Jesus. I don't want to digress. Anyway, I'm getting that you were actually paid very, very well. You might have spent some time in prison, but it was not likely because you were kind of one of the best in your field. And I'm also getting in one life that you were a teacher, but you were a teacher of mystical things, and you kept it very well hidden under wraps. And that's between, 3 different methods. I use the pendulum now.
I like that you were scrying. Nobody does that. Nobody even knows what that is anymore. And one of the instances that I recall having been in a prison, I was actually there deliberately.
Yeah, and the crystals that I pulled, the moon, femininity, but also a lot of secrets and dark depression, and the magician, which is, manipulation of the scenes, and the Hierophant, which is a gifted, sacred teacher.
What about myself? What are you picking up on me?
Well, first of all, it's very irritating how you do that, but I'll tell you. You want to know a secret? That's how I knew you were Cancer. That's how I knew it was a Cancer. Anyway, while I'm shuffling these, focusing on what your past lives would have been, I will tell you that I tried to scry with a crystal ball for most of my life, and I was never able to see anything. And then I realized that I was using reconstituted quartz. I don't believe anyone can see anything in reconstituted quartz because my ego comes into play, like, if I can't see it, they can't. So if you use a natural quartz sphere, and it doesn't have to be a big one because they're thousands of dollars, you're supposed to see shades of color pretty much only. I will see full-on motion pictures in there, and I will also see different symbolism. And I also have a picture, and it's somewhere on my Facebook, of actual images in the crystal ball. And I think I might be the only person on Earth who has a picture like that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, if you've never been able to see anything in a crystal ball, get yourself just a natural polished quartz ball. And a lot of the hype is just more charlatanism. Like, people say that you have to keep it covered to, strengthen it. Nonsense.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah. The sun charges it up, and a lot of people say, well, you can't touch my tarot cards because I don't want your energy on them.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, that's just more charlatanism to try to keep the mystery shrouded, so you have to come to them. I find it best
touching it would be it's helpful, that energy.
It actually is.
I personally, my policy is that people that have trained me, the masters that I've worked under and trained with, have gone ahead and said on a lot of them on several occasions have said that you want to try and meditate in every moment. So I went ahead and adapted scrying to just the way that I view everything. I'm constantly just reading things that appear in the world, and it's communicating to me, and it never fails.
Yeah, you just want to think of something and just kind of drop yourself into a meditative state, and until you learn how to do that on command, pretty much just relax your eyelids until things are blurry and look in the ball. And I will tell you, what did you say your past life was? Like a bank robber type person?
In one of them, a bank robber, murderer, a little bit of, yeah. But I mean, it was mostly the guy that did the. I think I didn't kill them as many as he did.
He said.
But I did kill some, yes.
Well, I get something that kind of relates to that, but there's a little bit of a negative connotation to it. I don't want to say that you were a working girl, but I do want to say that you were wanted because of your lustful ways and your sharp mind. And you were kind of like a soulmate with a massive manipulator type.
Ooh, that fits directly. That seems good.
It's very interesting because the middle card is the Fool and the middle stone is the Fool. So it's just, but it's upside down because upside down means certain things.
Right.
But the thing that tells me that you were sought after for your sexual abilities, and that probably would have been your last life because you were a Gemini, and Gemini is the prostitute sign, is the lust card, which is, that's pretty much what that means. But because it's upside down, I also think that you were forced in the positions of helping him, and once you got yourself tangled up in them, it was kind of like an all-in type situation.
Right.
Yeah, so you should have other lives. I'm always figuring stuff out, and I'm wondering if maybe the lives that you're settling karmic debt for in this life are the ones that are easier to read. Sometime in the future, now that I have your chart information, I'll plug it into this very expensive program I have. And how it does it is it identifies near exact chart types of yours in the past, and you will find that was you in a past life.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to not believe anyone, because according to the professional, I was the Japanese princess and I was a nun.
This actually leads to an important question. But Donovan, if I name names, can you edit this part out?
I can try to. I'm not certain I'll be able to do that, honestly. So, I mean, maybe you should do that.
You can message me the names on Facebook, and I can
send her a message. I would like to take this opportunity to note for the record that at least myself personally, I have a very great deal of respect for prostitution. It is, in fact, the oldest form of employment, and is also, it's like I'm failing to understand why anybody would see it in a negative light at all. Providing
it is true. It's true.
Well, it's religion, I guess. It's
religion, absolutely. But to go back quickly on something you said before I got myself sidetracked, you were asking about my past life. I think the earliest memory I have of my earliest past lives was in Egypt. I had multiple past lives in Egypt. That was the one country where I had multiple past lives in. Other past lives that I had were in different countries, but for some reason I had two in Egypt.
Hey, you know what we should do? If you have this kind of tech and you're capable of doing this, we should go ahead and launch a full-on investigation into this shit and continue this ongoing indefinitely.
What, past life regression?
Yeah, just all of it, investigating all of it.
There's certain...
sharing our conclusions in an episode, ultimately.
There's certain crystals that I've read. I can't remember right now exactly what they are. I could look them up for a later date. But there's certain crystals that if you meditate with your third eye, it's supposed to aid in past life regression. I believe Opal is one of them. But the trusted method for me has always been the astrology program I work with.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it'll tell you, and certain souls are like golden souls. They've been gods every time they've been alive. Certain souls are rather dark souls, and they've always been like very, very bad. Donovan, I also thought that you might have been an actual undertaker in one of your lives.
I would have been an undertaker?
Yeah, you worked with like the dead. But
morbid.
I think I wanted to be an undertaker for a long time.
And something you said actually. Something you said actually did put a question in my mind, and I'm kind of curious if you can pick up on it. But Donovan and I both are very closely connected to a certain god or a goddess, and I'm curious if you know what they are and can explain to us why we're so connected to them.
Okay, I need to say I already told her that, but obviously I didn't tell her why, so that's what she's going to be looking for here, but I have already informed her of that. Damn it, I had something else I needed to say, but I forgot now. The living God thing, don't forget about that. I want to talk more about that. Sorry.
Okay. It's really a generic answer. Any God that you are connected to in a special way simply controls your most interested subjects. So Isis being like a mother type god, you're Cancer, that's the mother. He's Capricorn, that's the head mother. Both interested in magic and power and animals and things like that.
Right.
Any god that you're connected to like that simply responds to your interests, because we are all only concerned with ourselves for the most part, and we only pick up on things that we have within us. So, my god is Ganesh, and I'm an elephant, and I'm poetic and remove obstacles, telepathy, and things like that. Mastering addictions. So, that's pretty much, what I could tell you. I mean, it would be.
Well, I was curious because while I agree with what you're saying, I also often wonder, because I know for me, you are right about Isis, but for me, my connection goes a little bit deeper than that. It's not so much just because I was born a Cancer in this life. See, in my first life in Egypt, I actually was a temple priestess, if you will, for the temple of Isis. And that actually is what was involved in my undoing of my own accord, but that's a story for a different day. But and I also found that I was connected to her in that second life in Egypt as well. So I often wonder, and I was curious about Donovan as well, I often wonder if the reason why we're connected to a certain one in the present isn't because we had some sort of connection with them in the past. And the reason why I ask this is a very specific reason, and actually has something to do with something that I've been experiencing recently on my own, and I'm not quite sure how to make of it, but you seem very knowledgeable on the different gods and stuff like that. I'm sure you're familiar with who Anubis is, right?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've heard her.
Okay.
I studied Hermeticism when I first delved into spirituality.
Well, Anubis was actually a guy, but for some reason,
like a black cat image connected to that name, and I thought there was an air of Is that like the god of the underworld or something?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And that's during the night. Okay, during the day it becomes Persephone, the goddess of spring, and
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why, but for some reason, I just know certain very personal things about Anubis and things that happened in his life. And I have tried to look inside myself and figure out how I know these things, but I don't understand how I know these things. I was telling Donovan the one day, I remember something about a lot of people tend to think that Anubis is very cold-hearted, and he was, but I recall some time in his life where he fell in love with a servant girl. And, like, when I say love, I mean, like, literally he would have sold everything. He would have gotten, nothing else mattered to him but her. But somehow certain people in his kingdom or whatever found out about this, and they found out that she was his weakness, and that was their leverage, if you will, to get control over him, because they ended up killing her and screwing him over in the process, and that's what they wanted.
Things in response to that, make a statement and pose a question. Insofar as regards everything that you said here, like saying that you know things, for example, and then also Norie having stated that for the most part people tend to just care, and be concerned with themselves ultimately. I have actually begun to move into an area wherein I'm starting to become kind of unable to really care for myself in the same sense as before, and I'm actually beginning to project this care. Like, I'm feeling as though that's being altered for me, and I'm actually in the process of making videos trying to explain what happened there and why and what I think about it at the moment. But I mean, it seems as though it's another stage of development.
Right.
It is, but I'm not really certain as to what that is particularly, but it is.
Have you reached the state of asexuality yet? That comes that comes along with evolution of the soul.
Yeah, that's gonna be a very troublesome stepping stone for most people, and that's why we need to launch that sexuality course, because people are gonna be just diehard afraid to even consider doing that. Let alone allowing for it to happen.
Death, Donovan. It does do a lot to weaken your constitution. When you get into the hyper-evolved states of the soul and you reach the point of asexuality, you are very close to death, and you'll start to accumulate much more power, because semen itself is life force, and when you are not expelling it, you have all that power within you, and you actually start to project quite a bit more at night, and it's referred to as floating off. You need to actually be grounded. So I would suggest for you to slowly work yourself back down into a regular humanized sexual state. It'll happen in its own good time, probably about the time you come very close to death and you wind up accepting a partner pretty much to keep yourself alive. But you are kind of treading on thin ice area, and you'll notice things in this state of evolvement. You'll be able to control things. Whatever you want will happen. If you need something, you will be able to get it under any means. It seems like you become invisible to authority figures. You'll maybe reach breatharian state, which is pretty dangerous in itself, where you won't need sustenance to keep you going. You'll sleep fairly well.
Everything that you're saying is absolutely spot on, but I mean, it's far too late. I've gone far beyond all of that by a long shot. So yeah, I've experienced all of that though. She's spot on there, right about that. So,
Yeah. Something you said earlier just kind of popped in my head, and I'm really curious. If if it's possible, how to ask this? Is it possible to connect on the other side to people that we remember from our past lives?
What I have found is that I can find anyone who hasn't reincarnated yet. When a soul dies, or when a body dies, I should say, a soul waits for those they love the most in a very true, unconditional love way. And sometimes it's more than two souls. But once they jump through God, which does exist, they reincarnate and they come out in the progressed sign unless they failed life. I myself cannot really connect. I can't find people that have already moved on. If I can't find a person, I know that they are in some other form of life. Whether or not you could do it, I don't know. I don't know what abilities you have yourself. But I know that once a person has reincarnated, I can't find them. And it's been a very rare occurrence because the people that come to me typically are concerned with the people they truly loved. So I can almost always find them.
Yeah, see, that's going to be exactly the same thing I mentioned to you, where in the trackers we have watching what people do after they pass on. They do, in fact, just vanish. It's where they're going. I have no idea.
There's a very specific person that I'm curious to see if you can connect with. Someone I was very close with as a child. It was my Uncle Fred. And he fell very ill the last few years of his life, and because he didn't live close enough, I didn't get to say anything to him. And he had Alzheimer's, so he literally was forgetting everything. He wasn't his old self. So even if I did get to say anything to him, he probably wouldn't have been able to realize it was me even saying it. Because he was very bad off.
Honestly, the only name that comes to mind of a male that is there for you is by the name of John. I don't get a Fred at all. This one I see is wearing suspenders.
What exactly happened with John? How did you get here, Mandy?
I don't know anybody named John. I've never met anybody named John.
John's who introduced you to me. You read that? You're here because of John.
Oh, Jonathan?
That's right, yeah. That would be John.
But Jonathan is alive. She's talking about on the other side, Donovan.
Are you?
I just get that his name is John. I don't,
She doesn't know where he is. She's just saying John comes from that.
I just see him. I get names, directions, colors. I just get John, and he's on the right, and that's the thing. I never really know what this.
Is he someone I knew in this life or a past life?
I would imagine it's this life because there's, I've already told you I don't have.
Oh, that's right.
Once the person has passed on, the energy is gone. The energy is
right.
something else.
Yeah,
So
Now, Mandy claims to, have seen what actually happens when it does vanish, and she's explained that in our very first video. I would like to go ahead and ask you to give an example of, how you would go about searching for a person in this way, that we might be able to try.
Well, yeah. I want to also add that I don't have much more time because I do have to get to work really, really early. So I just want to try to cut this down to a couple more minutes, if possible, if that's okay. Because I got to get up at like 7 a.m. And actually sooner than that. So you want me to explain the first time I saw a spirit?
Yeah, do that, and then if you're willing to come back again, Norie, we can do an episode dedicated to you teaching us how to do this, or how to try this at least.
I will, because I'm really not up to give personal psychic readings. I would much rather help the masses. I'm sorry, I'm very blunt. I get very irritated.
No, absolutely.
When my mind is doubted in any way. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to come on repeatedly and tell you about
what we want to do is show people how to do this themselves.
You can call me at work if you want to do that, but I'm in the mode of really just kind of opening people's eyes. I've reached the evolvement where I no longer have, care of self. So I would, like to reach more people instead of just feeding into a specific thing.
You have the right attitude. What would you call that, though? How would you refer to that kind of, I suppose, state of being that you've explained?
That's God's state.
Do you have any word?
When you no longer care about yourself at all, that's why they say God is love. God is love. God does heal. God is up there on that top layer. And love is like a selfless thing. It's not, I don't ever really talk about, one person when I can heal everyone,
I have a very powerful person.
Universal. What?
I have an exceptionally powerful, high potentiality operative spotter that I just reconnected with, who I in fact actually trained when he was younger. So he should be exceptionally developed at this point with what I had given him at the time. Obviously, I wasn't anywhere near where I am now. I didn't even know how to get here at the time. But this dude has reached a stage of development wherein he feels as though he's reached nirvana or samdhi, and so he has finished, and he has decided to kind of shy away from helping people or doing anything because he's somehow better than that. He's escaped the illusion. That's going to be
psychosis
for the audience. That's a very troublesome state to be in.
Psychosis
is not the answer.
And
so
that's a very dangerous state.
Right. Exactly.
So you, Donovan, you were asking me the first time that I saw a spirit. Can I think back? Okay, so the first time I saw a spirit, it was actually when I was a little bit older. I would say I was about maybe 15, 16, when I started being able to see my first experience. I was at a store, and there was a young guy. Well, I say young now because I'm older, but there was a guy, putting stuff on the shelves. And as I walked past him, I just had this overwhelming feeling of like anxiety. And when I turned to look at him, I saw a young guy standing next to him, and he basically started telling me, "Oh, this is my brother. This is," he started showing me how he died and everything, and so it was very intense. But I went to him, and oh my goodness, I got my phone ringing here. Just 1 second.
So you've experienced similar things, right, Norie?
I've seen lots of spirits.
Hi.
So how does it present? Like, what are you seeing when it shows you something? I don't understand that.
Well, so I figured it was you.
When I see them.
Yeah, but Jennifer's up.
I see them pretty much how they were when they passed. When I see them in the realm, most people are as when they pass. However, the more pure their soul is, some of them have reverted to their prime. Only a couple.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, thank you for saying realm instead of dimension. That is the correction.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you guys would like to say, or anything else that you guys feel like you want to add before we go for everyone watching? I feel like you have something on your heart, Noreen, especially that you wanna say to people out there watching.
Well, I did kind of promise to explain to people exactly how you open yourself up to these gifts. And if you read about it, you'll see a lot on chakra meditation and grounding and owning the room and working with certain crystals, like rose quartz is the one that you would first work with to open your psychic gifts. But recently I have discovered exactly what happens in my head, and that is to just try to empty your head before you focus on any one thing. And then the old adage, trust your gut, or for your first instinct. Right. Just allow yourself to understand the images or the random words that come, and don't try to add any logic to them until they have stopped, because you'll end up, when you put your own logic in, it's a very human thing and it can be flawed. But, I was finding a wedding ring for my job, and it made no sense to me. I had no background on the case. Okay, go on. But the first thing I got was dirt. And I elaborated. I was like, oh, it's dirt. It's like in some place very dirty, like in dirt. And then the next thing I got was right. And when I told this to the client, she told me that actually she hadn't lost her ring. It was lost to her, but her daughter was wearing it. And she was gardening, and she was actually in the right side of the garden. And that's when I realized that it's just your first impressions. And that's why I said that's what I get. I get randomness. I get directions and one or two words at a time. And once it's like an onrush, once you have all these things, you can ask a little bit of questions if you're capable of doing that. And then you make sense of it that way. So everyone has these abilities. You just have to trust yourself and
tap into them. And that's great.
I would like to state that if you actually get into this and you study it and research it properly with a certain degree of investment and consideration as to the pertinence of it, that is to say, if not necessarily believe in it, but have an open mind and allow for it to happen, you're going to find that's a recurring theme that is imperative in every practice of this sort. It's going to be Reiki, meditation, Kundalini practice, and even in religion, it has the statement of surrendering to love. That's going to be the key to most everything, is allowing for it to happen.
I couldn't agree more. I think love is very crucial. And for my final thing I'd like to say is, NorieAnn, I really appreciate you coming on, and it was so nice meeting you and so nice talking to you. And Donovan, great talking to you as well. I think this went really well, and I look forward in learning more from you, NorieAnn, and just talking more and things like that. And same from you, Donovan. I'm so blessed to have met both of you, and I think that you're both great. And NorieAnn, I will DM you privately about what we were talking about earlier, since I couldn't say the names and stuff on broadcast. But thank you both, and I certainly appreciate it very, 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 very much.
Don't hide it from me. I want to know.
I did have one question for you before we go. I didn't want to appear rude because I'm over here on my phone, but I'm usually working on something. And when you said your first sight of a spirit was around age 15 or so, when you really, really think about that, could you have been slightly older than that? I'm just wondering.
Well, I was on the cusp of turning 16, so I wasn't like I was right in that age bracket.
Okay, because I can usually see when a person's gifts become stronger, and
Right.
and I guess I would have to use my program, because according to the phone, you should have been really, really reaching your peak between the ages of 16 and 19.
Well, it was literally weeks before my 16th birthday, so I was pretty much 16.
Did you?
Because I remember when that happened.
After the age of 10 or so, did you start like having common sleep disturbances? Common to you, but
yeah,
and like
absolutely,
astral projection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's on something there.
Yeah, well, I can tell it from the chart. You just have to check your sources, because everything is a little skewed, dude. And most of the things are wrong. Most of the things online, if you don't pay for it, don't trust it. I've always said that. You get what you pay for.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's something I've always said.
Yeah. But I'm gonna get off here, and I will go ahead and NorieAnn, I will DM you, and we'll talk privately about this. As like I said, so I could have mentioned it in here. And Donovan, great job on the thumbnail. I'm really proud of that. You did a really good job on that. And is there anything you guys would like to say before closing off here?
I apologize for my demeanor. I'm in bad shape, but
it's okay. It's okay.
I'm really excited about this. I think we should launch a full-on investigation here. I think we should begin next time we do this by obviously we've got to get other people on here, but Norie, I want you to return, and when you do, we start right away with presenting the techniques that you're accustomed to using.
I would like to dabble more in past lives, because it's probably one of my least studied subjects, and honestly, that's because when someone told me mine, I just kind of knew that it was nonsense, and it's that whole thing.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be nice. I'm always studying, working on several books, and I'm always looking to enhance my mind.
And at the same time posting ridiculously hilarious shit on Facebook.
You will probably never meet anyone of my caliber. It's nonstop thoughts in this head of mine, so I want to spit them out and make them real, because otherwise it's, just...
I empathize.
But, what else would thanks to everyone who's subscribing, and thanks to everyone who check out Norie's page, follow her, friend her, check out her work, and check out Donovan's stuff as well. Show them both love, support them both, and
check
positivity.
And Norie is intending to launch a channel of her own, I'd like to know.
Yes, one of these days. I already have it, but honestly, I can't steady my mind, and I've been very censored here. This is practice for me, because I do spit out stuff that's very hilarious, and sometimes it is derogatory for one reason or another.
But I have to get off here because I have to get going here shortly. But this is great. And NorieAnn, like I said, I'm so thankful to have met you, and you're very nice, and everything that Donovan had told me about you is absolutely true. You're very, very nice and very funny, and I look forward to getting to know you more, and I for sure looking forward to the future.
Don't judge me for those things I post on Facebook.
No.
I don't get paid to be on Facebook, so I'm not trying to be professional.
Not at all.
I judge you for those things, and I think it's awesome.
I hope everyone following this has a good night, and I love everybody, and just spread kindness and love. That's all I want to add, and I hope everyone is well and is well for the week and takes care.
Yeah, fucking be loving. Do your part.
All right, bye, Donovan.
Good night, all.
Good
Bye, guys. Have a good night. I'll see you next time.
You too, madam.